Hey guys, Kurt Wilson, Beats on Bites. Today we are talking to Paul Insinna, from hip hop to pop, and has done it all. 30-year entertainment attorney, also a manager, and he's got some great stories, great insights. You're going to want to stick around.
My goal is always to move slowly with artists that I work with.
Right.
Because
they've got a life. There's no reason to make a rash decision. They've got a path.
Most artists have a mindset they're looking at tomorrow, where I'm looking at 5 years from now.
Right.
So that's the other conflict that you always have when you're dealing with an artist. And especially when I was involved in the rap business, they're not even looking at tomorrow. They're just looking at today. They're saying, sorry.
They're looking at 12 noon. They're looking at the next 15 minutes.
Or next week or next month. They just care about today. So that was an ongoing struggle when I was doing a lot of rap. And I did rap management as well, which was bizarre, but I did that.
Now, tell me a little bit about that. How did you get involved in rap? And how did you become like the go-to guy as far as rap management and being the rap attorney?
When I decided to open my own office, which is 1990, back then, rap was really just hitting. Mm-hmm. And all of the major firms and the big lawyers didn't want to handle rappers. Right. They felt there was a flash in the pan. They were going to be gone next year. Rap isn't going to be a business that stays longevity. And they were scared of these guys, basically. They thought they were all thugs. They didn't want to deal with this. Right. They didn't want this stuff in their office. They didn't want this stuff in their lives. So I took on rap people. I mean, I was born in the Bronx. I wasn't scared for sure. But the other thing is, of course, I liked rap back then because it kind of reminded me of the stories I used to hear of the music business in the 60s. Because when, even back then, early 90s, I mean, if you were to work with a young rock band or a young artist, you had to give yourself probably 10 years before that artist was making any money and doing anything. I mean, Bruce Springsteen took at least 10 years. David Bowie took even longer than that. All these guys, it's a long process. Whereas in the rap business, people were becoming stars overnight, just like in the 60s, the old 50s and 60s. Not so much the 60s, more the 50s. Those old doo-wop bands and stuff like that. I mean, they would put out a single and they're a star overnight. All of a sudden, they're headlining big shows. And that's what was happening in rap. And in fact, curiously enough, my one rap client that I managed, I never felt comfortable managing rap because it's not a music that I grew up with. It wasn't even a music that I was a big fan of. And I felt you had to really live the hip-hop experience to be able to do that. I even told this guy that, but he insisted that I handle him. But he came into my office. At the time, he was homeless. And within 2 years, he was sitting with me at Radio City for a Grammy he was being nominated for, and for an MTV award he was being nominated for. He had a platinum record. Huge success. He was the biggest rap artist at the time. He launched Bad Boy Records for Puffy. But again, there's that struggle of, he was a talented rapper and a hard worker, but he didn't listen. And I used to have weekly conversations with him where he would say, "You're right, I should have done that. I should have listened to you." And then next week he would do the same thing, and it was insane. So he had a meteoric career that got very big, very fast, which can only happen in rap. I mean, a rock group would never do that. But just as quickly, he went off the cliff. I used to point out all the time to him that, this guy's doing this, which is not good. This guy, in the hope that he would straighten these guys out. Right. And his response was to just fire everybody one day, and his whole crew was out of business. He's looking for, that's the way he used to react.
That's a solution.
Yeah, and that's how I became manager. He says, "You got to be my manager now." So I fired my manager because I was his lawyer originally.
Wow.
And the other thing is, and this is a constant thing that still goes on today. One of the roles of the manager is to insulate the artist. Right. So if you don't want to do a gig, or you have a problem with the record company, or whatever it is, you don't tell the record company people that yourself. You have your manager do that. And I always tell them, like, when I sit down with people, the first thing I say is, make me be the heavy. Blame it on me. I don't mind. People think I'm a son of SOB. That's okay. People think you're a SOB, you're in trouble. But he wouldn't listen to that. So he right away got had a very bad relationship with the president of the label, which was Puffy. to a point where they hated each other. And that's one of the reasons Puffy started to do work with Biggie and kind of put him aside. So that was another reason for his downfall. But again, it's just a combination of bad decisions, many bad decisions, even personally in his life, to the point where he winds up joining some cult in Virginia and going on camera saying rap is evil, rap is devil's music, and now he's passed away. I mean, and he was half my age, but he passed away a few years ago. So it's a sad story. It's a cautionary tale. But he was a great rapper. I mean, he was one of the first that did it, and he's responsible for Bad Boy Records. I mean, Bad Boy Records was built on his back. But they don't even mention him anymore at Bad Boy because Puffy just hated it. But that's the record business.